This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abbaim. Hope everyone is doing well. We're continuing the Iggeres HaRamban. It's interesting, the Rosh Hashiva of Hebron, Rabbi Yechezkel Sarna, he wrote footnotes on the Iggeres HaRamban, and it's published in Rav Goldberg's work on the Iggeres HaRamban called Iggeres Musar. And he takes note of the fact that this entire letter is centered around humility. Apparently, the Ramban understood and recognized this letter was written to his son. So he obviously understands and recognizes that his son had already acquired all the Middos that preceded Anava, because in the totem pole of Rav Pinchas ben Yair, Anava sort of comes toward the end. So firstly we have Rizos, Zehiros, Nekios, Prishos, and that means the Ramban felt that his son was already on the Madrega of humility to bring to Yiras Chet, to bring to Kedusha. Now, not everybody is already holding on the Madrega that they could start off with humility and be ready just for the final Madregos. In other words, most people, they need to start in the beginning. They need to start with Zehiros, Zrizos, Nekios. But apparently the Ramban understood and recognized that his son was already holding on the Madrega, that he could already begin with the Midah of humility. So as we know, the Ramban says, the letter starts off, Shema b'ni musar avicha v'al titosh toras imecha. To the introductory remark is to listen to the musar of your father and the Torah of your mother. And the Ramban exhorts us to train ourselves to speak our words softly, and by doing so you'll be saved from anger. And then the Ramban says, when you're saved from anger, it will arise in your heart the midah of humility. Now Rabbi Yechezkel Sarna has an interesting observation on this, and perhaps we could humbly offer a alternative way of reading it. And that is, Rabbi Yechezkel Sarna reads it that somebody who gets angry, it's not even oile alibam midas ha'anava. Which Rabbi Yechezkel Sarna means it doesn't even enter their mind. There's someone who gets angry is so far from humility, is so distant from humility, it doesn't even enter their mind to be humble. That's how he reads the words. When a person saves himself from kas, it's tale alibcha, it will arise in your heart, the midah of humility. Sounds like until you save yourself from anger, it doesn't even enter your heart. We read those words slightly differently. We read those words, when a person is saved from humility, it will arise in your heart. What I believe the Ramban is saying is that a concept Middos Yesharim enunciates, and that is, Middos Yesharim says, all the Middos Tovos are already programmed in the subconscious. It's already part of the genetic makeup of the neshama. It's deep down, it's coded, it's covered over. Like the pasuk says, Mayim amukim eitza belev ish ve'ish tevuna yidlena. There is very deep waters, great wisdom buried deep, deep down in a person's heart, and a man of understanding will draw it forth. So from here we see that the Middos Tovos are already programmed in one's heart. You just have to access it. And perhaps what the Ramban is saying, when a person saves himself from anger, it will arise in their heart the natural humility that already is programmed and rests in your heart will begin to rise in your heart by you access it by controlling your anger. And then Rav Sarna makes a similar observation. That Rav Sarna says, and because of humility, it will arise in your heart the midah of yira. Which Rav Sarna says, that implies that without humility, it doesn't even dawn on your mind the midah of yira. He reads the words tala alibcha, that it will occur to you. You'll think of the possibility. And he sort of points out how without humility, the fear doesn't even enter your mind. But perhaps those words, Tala alibcha, does not mean it will enter your mind, but perhaps Tala alibcha means it will it will arise, the midah of yira, which is already programmed in your heart, will be accessed and will rise up into your in the forefront of your mind. Now I would like to just point out an important diuk in the words of the Ramban. The Ramban says that ubavur ha'anava, through humility, tala alibcha midas hayira, it will occur to you, or it will rise in your heart, the midah of fear. Ki titein alibcha tamid, because you will always think, me'ayin basa, where did you come from? That your origins are of very little significance. Where you're headed to a place of 6 feet under the ground, and even that's in your death, and all the more. But even when one is alive, they are reckoned like rima v'toileya. It's interesting. The Ramban implies that through humility you will come to fear, because you will think about where you come from and where you're going. That implies that if somebody was not humble, if somebody was not an anav, then they would not think these thoughts. Why would somebody only think about where they come from or where they're headed, and before who they have to give a din v'cheshbon, if a person is humble? Why wouldn't a person think about it if they were arrogant? Clearly what the Ramban is saying is that if a person was arrogant, they would not be able to have these thoughts. They would have a cognitive dissonance where a person would block out of his mind. If somebody was arrogant, they would not allow themselves to think about their origins. Their arrogance would cover up and make them ignore where they come from. Their arrogance would not allow them to think about where they're headed. Their arrogance would not allow them to think about giving a din v'cheshbon before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Humility is what allows your mind to say, you know what, I can think about, you're not above thinking about your small origins. You're not above thinking about your lowly end. You're not above thinking about your responsibility that you have to answer to a greater being, namely HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But someone who is a Bal Gaiva will not allow himself to have those type of thoughts, because those type of thoughts are so antithetical to his essence, which is Gaiva. Then a person would not allow him to, the Gaiva would not allow him to have these thoughts. And the Chasher Tachshav is Kol Eila, when you think about these thoughts, Tira mi baracha, you will fear your Creator, the Tishmar Menachet, and you will be careful not to sin. So humility is the key to allow the mind and the soul to think those thoughts that will bring you to the next level, namely Yiras Hachet. So as Rav Sarna pointed out, this is the Ramban speaking to his son, who's already on the Madrega and ready for the Madrega of Anivos, and from there it will take him to Yiras Chet and to Kedusha. So this will conclude over here today. Bez Hashem, we will pick it up on the following Monday, Mirz Hashem. And I want to wish everybody a Freilich Purim. Tonight at 9:05, there is a special Partners in Torah show that we're going to be speaking on for about 10-15 minutes. 9:30 is the Daf HaShavua. Tomorrow night, Purim, at 10 p.m., will be a special Seder Olam Haba. The Chassam Sofer promises that those who learn Torah between the Megillah of the night and the Megillah of the day are vouchsafed to share in the world to come. So we're going to have a special shir. It's going to be on Zoom. It will be live streaming. And wishing everyone bracha v'atzlacha. Have a great day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.